The enemy fleet loomed on the edge of the galaxy, a vast array of warships drifting toward their target. The human colonies, the alien warlord, stood on his command deck, watching the display screen as it showed the course. They were on each ship, moving in perfect formation. Alien ships were formidable, their weapons designed to tear through any defenses in their path. The humans stood no chance. He thought the species was young and weak, their technology outdated in comparison. To the might of his armada, his people had crushed entire civilizations without breaking a sweat. But humanity was different in one way the warlord could not ignore. They had survived longer than any other species with the help of their tenacity and relentless willpower. It was this very will that concerned him more than anything else. He dismissed the thought quickly. There was no need for concern, not today, not against an enemy so far beneath them. The crew members at their stations around him were tense, the atmosphere electric with anticipation. Soon they would arrive, and their final push would begin. The warlord's mind wandered to the reports of the human fleets that had been spotted in the outer rim. Their numbers were few, but their resilience was impressive. There were whispers of human ships with strange new tactics, but the warlord had dismissed these rumors. They would not matter today. They would not stop the enemy's fate had been sealed long ago. The warlord's hand clenched into a fist, and he turned to face the captain of his flagship. The captain stood tall, his uniform crisp. The warlord spoke in a voice that carried authority. "The humans are insignificant," he said. "Their fleet is nothing but a token resistance. Soon they will be erased from the galaxy. With the flick of a switch, their fate was written from the moment they declared war on us." The captain nodded in agreement and spoke of their superiority in every regard. "They will not stand against us, Captain," the warlord continued. "Their ships are nothing but relics of a bygone age. They are outdated and weak. Even if they put up a fight, it will not last long. We will break them in mere hours." The captain left to relay the orders to the fleet, and the warlord turned back to the view screen. The vastness of space stretched out before him, countless stars blinking in the distance. He knew they would make quick work of the human fleet. Soon they would be wiped off the map. But as the warlord stared out into the endless darkness, something caught his eye, a flicker, a small blip of movement on the far side of the display. The warlord narrowed his eyes. It was a faint signal, barely detectable by the sensors, but it was enough to pique his curiosity. He issued a command to analyze the signal, and as the crew worked to identify it, the warlord's mind began to race. There was something wrong, something that didn't sit right with the usual reports he had seen. Suddenly, the sensors beat. The signal had intensified. It was not a stray asteroid or a malfunctioning satellite. It was another fleet approaching fast, very fast. The warlord's heart skipped a beat, and his eyes went wide. The signal grew stronger. A new fleet, a human fleet, he thought, and for the first time, he allowed himself to feel a sliver of doubt. The enemy had arrived sooner than expected, and in greater numbers than anticipated. But even so, they could not defeat his fleet, no matter how hard they tried. Then the fleet appeared out of nowhere. The human ships emerged from their hidden jump point like shadows in the dark. The enemy warlord stared in disbelief as the human fleet materialized before him. His eyes locked onto the display, and for a brief moment, he couldn't comprehend what he was seeing. The humans were not supposed to be here. Their fleet should have been smaller, weaker, a mere fraction of the enemy's power. But as the human ships appeared from the shadows of space, the warlord realized just how wrong he had been. The human fleet was not insignificant at all. Captain Hale stood at the command center of the human flagship, his eyes sharp as they scanned the scene unfolding before him. The enemy was larger, certainly, but the humans had the advantage of surprise. They'd spent months preparing for this moment, building new technologies and refining their strategies. They had a plan, and now it was time to put it into action. "All ships, engage at my command." Captain Hale's voice rang out through the communication system. His tone was calm, even as the stakes reached their highest. The humans had waited too long for this day. The battle would not be one of brute strength alone. It would be a battle of wits and will. The alien fleet reacted quickly, their ships adjusting position, preparing to strike with their superior firepower. The warlord issued orders for his fleet to close in and annihilate the human forces before they could pose a real threat. His confidence was unwavering. The humans had nothing on the sheer power of his armada. But the humans did not retreat. They did not falter. Instead, Captain Hale's fleet moved with precision and speed, utilizing their knowledge of the terrain around them. The human ships darted and weaved, avoiding the first few volleys of enemy fire. The alien warlord watched as their ships scattered, coordinating like a swarm of insects rather than a fleet. Each ship seemed to predict the next move, dodging and countering with skill that made the warlord question his earlier assumptions about human combat. These tactics, they're unlike anything we've encountered, the warlord muttered, his brow furrowing as he observed the chaos unfolding. His fleet, usually an unstoppable force, was being outmaneuvered at every turn. The humans were unpredictable, their movements strange but effective. The battle was turning into something the aliens hadn't planned for. Instead of lining up to be destroyed, the humans were forcing the warlord's fleet into a confusing, disorienting engagement. Their ships were not just fighting back. They were challenging the very way the warlord's forces had been trained to fight. Increase firepower, the warlord barked, his eyes never leaving the display. His ships retaliated with a barrage of energy blasts, trying to sweep through the human forces. But the humans were prepared. At the last moment, human ships moved with incredible agility, dodging blasts by mere inches, twisting through the void in impossible angles. The aliens couldn't track them fast enough. As the first enemy ship went down, a heavy cruiser struck by a well-placed missile barrage. The warlord felt a twinge of unease. His officers reported casualties in the front lines. For the first time since the battle had begun, he began to feel something he had never experienced: doubt. Captain Hale smiled grimly, watching as the first enemy ship fell from the sky. The humans had taken their first victory, but this was just the beginning. There was much more to come, and the warlord had no idea what he was in for. The enemy fleet was reeling from the unexpected chaos. The warlord had assumed his forces would crush the humans in moments, but now they were struggling to contain them. The human fleet, small but fast, was relentless in its attack, moving in a way that made the alien ships seem sluggish by comparison. The warlord growled, his frustration mounting as his command officers scrambled to adjust their strategies. "Do not let them escape," the warlord barked. "Engage all weapons. Destroy them at all costs." But Captain Hale remained calm as his fleet pressed on. The human ships were taking hits, but they kept moving, weaving through enemy fire and returning their own in devastating bursts. It was clear to the warlord now that the humans weren't just skilled fighters. They were unpredictable. It was as though they were fighting with something more than technology. The very essence of their combat seemed driven by a raw, almost instinctive willpower that his fleet couldn't match. "Captain Hale," his first officer said, turning to him, "the enemy is regrouping. They're bringing reinforcements from their rear flank." Hale nodded, his eyes scanning the battlefield. "We expected that, but we've got them on the back foot. Keep up the pressure." The human fleet had been preparing for this moment for months, outfitting their ships with new tech designed to level the playing field. The alien warlord's ships might have superior firepower, but the humans had a critical advantage: their adaptability. They knew how to use their surroundings to their advantage, how to turn the environment itself into a weapon. The warlord's fleet closed in, trying to surround the human ships, but the humans refused to be boxed in. They darted between asteroid fields, using the debris to obscure their movements. The alien ships, with their larger frames and slower reflexes, were caught off guard again and again as the humans slipped through their defenses like ghosts in the night. Every alien ship that ventured too close to the asteroid field found itself disabled by a precise strike, a surprise attack from an unexpected angle. The warlord's heart began to race as his fleet suffered more losses. His flagship, the pride of his fleet, shook under the force of a sudden blast from a human cruiser that had emerged from the shadows of an asteroid. He turned to his tactical officer. "How many ships have we lost?" he asked, trying to maintain control of his emotions. 4 major warships and several smaller vessels. My lord, the officer responded, his voice shaky. The humans are. They're not like any enemy we've faced before. The warlord's eyes narrowed as he stared at the chaotic scene before him. The human fleet was far smaller than his own, but they fought like a swarm, and every ship, no matter how damaged, kept up the assault. It was as if they were all connected, moving with a single purpose. His own fleet, despite its size and firepower, was starting to look disjointed, like a massive machine that had lost its gears. What are they doing? The warlord demanded, watching as the humans grouped together in a perfect formation. Each ship, no matter its size, worked in harmony with the others, supporting one another in ways the alien ships were struggling to match. It was a strategy the warlord had never seen before, a blend of tactics, precision, and raw tenacity. They're coordinating in a way we can't predict, the tactical officer admitted. Their formations are too fluid, too unpredictable. The warlord clenched his fists. He had never experienced anything like this. In his long career, no enemy had ever forced him to question his superiority. But these humans, they were different. He could see it now. The humans were not only fighting for their survival, they were fighting for something more. And that, the warlord realized, was what made them dangerous. The human fleet's unexpected emergence had thrown the alien warlord's plans into disarray. His once confident demeanor now faltered as he observed the humans' unorthodox tactics. They were not engaging in traditional space combat. Instead, they were employing guerrilla strategies, using the environment to their advantage. The warlord's tactical officers scrambled to adapt, but the humans were always one step ahead. Captain Hale, the first officer, reported, the enemy is attempting to regroup. They're forming a defensive perimeter around their flagship. Hale nodded, his expression focused. We anticipated this. Prepare the flanking maneuver. We need to keep the pressure on. The human ships split into 2 groups, one feinting a retreat while the other flanked the alien formation. The warlord's fleet, eager to capitalize on the perceived weakness, pursued the decoy group, leaving their flagship vulnerable. The humans struck swiftly, disabling several key vessels in the rear of the alien formation. How are they coordinating this? The warlord muttered, his frustration mounting. Their tactics are unlike anything we've encountered. They're using advanced communication systems, the tactical officer replied. Encrypted signals, possibly quantum entanglement. It's difficult to intercept. The warlord clenched his fists. Increased jamming efforts. We cannot allow them to maintain this level of coordination. Despite the jamming, the humans adapted, employing countermeasures and alternative communication methods. Their resilience was evident, and the warlord began to question his earlier assumptions about their capabilities. As the battle raged on, the warlord's flagship sustained significant damage. The human fleet's relentless assault had taken its toll. The warlord stood, his gaze fixed on the view screen, watching as his forces were systematically dismantled. Retreat, he ordered, his voice cold. Signal the fleet to fall back to the nearest star system. We will regroup and reassess. The alien ships began to retreat, but the human fleet did not pursue. Instead, they maintained their positions, ensuring the aliens could not regroup without facing further resistance. Captain Hale watched the retreating enemy ships, a sense of accomplishment settling over him. We did it, he said quietly. The first victory in this war. But he knew this was just the beginning. The warlord would regroup, and the conflict would continue. The humans had proven their strength, but the true test was yet to come. The warlord's retreat had been swift, but the humans were relentless. Captain Hale knew that the battle was far from over. The alien fleet had regrouped, and their forces were now more formidable than before. The humans had inflicted significant damage, but the warlord's fleet was vast and powerful. Hale's fleet was smaller, but they had something the aliens lacked: unity and determination. All ships, prepare for the next phase, Captain Hale ordered. We will not let them regroup. We will press the attack. The human fleet advanced, their ships moving in perfect formation. The alien fleet met them head-on, their weapons blazing. The two forces collided in a cataclysmic explosion of energy and debris. The humans fought with a ferocity that surprised even the warlord. They were not just defending their colonies, they were fighting for their very survival. The warlord watched in disbelief as his ships were destroyed one by one. His fleet, once invincible, was being torn apart by the humans' relentless assault. He had underestimated them, and now he was paying the price. "Retreat," the warlord ordered, his voice tinged with panic. "We cannot win this battle. Fall back to the nearest star system." But it was too late. The human fleet had anticipated his move. They had already positioned themselves to cut off his escape routes. The warlord's fleet was trapped. Captain Hale's voice crackled over the communication channel. "Surrender now, and we will spare your lives. Continue to resist, and we will show no mercy." The warlord hesitated. He had never considered surrender. But the humans had proven themselves to be formidable opponents. Perhaps it was time to negotiate. "Very well," the warlord said, his voice cold. "We surrender. But know this, we will return. This is not the end." Captain Hale smiled grimly. "We will be ready." The warlord's fleet was escorted to a nearby planet, where they were disarmed and detained. The humans had won the battle, but they knew that the war was far from over. The warlord's words haunted them. They would return. The humans would have to be ready for the next confrontation. As the human fleet returned to their colonies, they were hailed as heroes. They had faced an overwhelming force and emerged victorious. But Captain Hale knew that this was just the beginning. The warlord would regroup, and the humans would have to be prepared for whatever came next. The days following the battle were filled with a mix of relief and apprehension. The human fleet had achieved a significant victory, but Captain Hale knew that the war was far from over. The alien warlord had retreated, but he would regroup and return with greater force. The humans had proven their strength, but they had also revealed their capabilities to the enemy. In the war room aboard the flagship, Captain Hale stood before a holographic display of the galaxy. The map was dotted with various star systems, each representing a potential battleground. His officers gathered around, their faces etched with concern. "We've won a battle," Hale began, "but the war is far from over. The warlord will return, and we need to be prepared." Admiral Thompson, his second-in-command, nodded. "Our intelligence suggests that the warlord is consolidating his forces in the Zeta system. If we strike now, we can prevent him from regrouping." Hale considered the proposal. A direct assault on the Zeta system would be risky. "We don't know the full extent of their forces there. We need more information." Lieutenant Carter, the fleet's intelligence officer, spoke up. "We have a covert reconnaissance team ready. They can infiltrate the Zeta system, gather intelligence, and return without being detected." Hale turned to Admiral Thompson. "Prepare the team. We need to know what we're up against before making any moves." The team was assembled, a mix of seasoned operatives and advanced technology designed for stealth. Their mission was clear: infiltrate the Zeta system, gather intelligence on the enemy's strength and movements, and return without alerting the warlord's forces. As the team departed, Captain Hale couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a trap. The warlord was cunning, and he would anticipate such a move. But the humans had no choice. They had to act. Days passed, and the fleet awaited the team's return. Tensions were high, and the uncertainty weighed heavily on everyone. Then, a transmission came through, a coded message from the reconnaissance team. "We have the information you requested," the message began. "The Zeta system is heavily fortified. The warlord has established a stronghold on the fourth planet, and his fleet is larger than anticipated. We recommend a diversionary tactic to draw his forces out." Captain Hale listened intently, absorbing the details. The team had done their job, but the situation was more dire than he had hoped. The warlord's forces were formidable, and a direct confrontation could result in heavy casualties. He turned to his officers. "We need to draw the warlord out." A diversionary tactic, as suggested. Admiral Thompson, assemble a strike force. Lieutenant Carter, prepare the decoy fleet. We move out at 600 hours. The plan was set into motion. The decoy fleet would simulate a retreat, luring the warlord's forces into an ambush. Meanwhile, the strike force would infiltrate the Zeta system and disable the warlord's stronghold. As the fleets moved into position, Captain Hale stood on the bridge, watching the stars streak by. The weight of command pressed down on him. Lives were at stake, and the outcome of this mission could determine the future of humanity. "All ships, prepare for engagement," he ordered. "This is our moment. Let's make it count." The fleets moved into position, ready to face the warlord once more. The battle for humanity's future was about to begin. The human fleet's decoy maneuver had drawn the warlord's forces into the trap. As the alien ships pursued the feigned retreat, they found themselves ensnared in a deadly ambush. The human strike force, hidden in the asteroid field, emerged with precision, launching a barrage of missiles that tore through the alien fleet's rear guard. Captain Hale watched the unfolding chaos on the bridge of his flagship. The alien ships, caught off guard, were struggling to regroup. The humans had anticipated their every move, exploiting the warlord's overconfidence. "Admiral Thompson," Hale called, "initiate the second phase. Deploy the EMP drones." Admiral Thompson nodded, relaying the order. A fleet of small, agile drones detached from the human ships, weaving through the battlefield toward the heart of the alien formation. As they neared, they released powerful electromagnetic pulses, disabling the alien ship's electronic systems. The warlord's fleet was now blind and crippled. Communications were severed, and navigation systems failed. The humans pressed the attack, their ships moving with coordinated precision, targeting the now vulnerable alien vessels. On the warlord's flagship, panic set in. His tactical officers scrambled to restore systems, but the damage was extensive. The humans had exploited every weakness, turning the tide of battle in their favor. "Prepare to abandon ship," the warlord ordered, his voice tinged with desperation. "Signal the fleet to retreat." But it was too late. The human fleet had anticipated this move. A squadron of human fighters, equipped with advanced cloaking technology, infiltrated the alien flagship's interior. They planted explosive charges in critical areas, ensuring the ship's destruction. As the flagship erupted in flames, the remaining alien ships surrendered. The warlord, now a prisoner, was taken aboard the human flagship. Captain Hale stood before him, his expression resolute. "You underestimated humanity," Hale said. "This is the price of that mistake." The warlord remained silent, his gaze defiant. He had never encountered an enemy like the humans, resilient, resourceful, and relentless. He knew that this defeat was only a setback. The war was far from over. Captain Hale turned to his crew. "Prepare for the next phase. We have a galaxy to protect." The human fleet, battered but unbroken, set course for the next challenge. They had proven their strength, but the true test of their resolve was yet to come. The warlord's defeat had sent shockwaves through the galaxy. His once feared fleet was now in disarray, and his stronghold on the fourth planet of the Zeta system lay in ruins. The human fleet, though battered, had emerged victorious. Captain Hale stood on the bridge of his flagship, gazing out at the stars. The battle was over, but the war was far from won. "Captain," Admiral Thompson said, approaching with a data pad in hand, "we've received a transmission from the Zeta system. It's from the Planetary Council." Hale turned to face his second-in-command. "Put it through." The screen flickered, and the image of a dignified alien appeared. "Greetings, Captain Hale," the alien began. "I am Counselor Varnak of the Zeta system. We owe you and your fleet a debt of gratitude. The warlord's tyranny has plagued us for years. With his defeat, we are free." Hale nodded. "We were glad to assist. Your people fought bravely." Counselor Varnak smiled. "We did what we could, but it was your intervention that turned the tide. We are prepared to offer our support in any way we can." Hale considered the offer. "We appreciate your willingness to help. Right now, we need to ensure the warlord's forces are fully neutralized. Once that's done, we can discuss how we can work together." "Understood," Varnak replied. "We will await your instructions." The transmission ended, and Hale turned back to the stars. The Zeta system was free, but many others were still under the warlord's control. The human fleet had made a significant impact, but the fight was far from over. "Admiral," Hale said, "prepare the fleet. We have more work to do." Thompson nodded. "Aye, Captain." Setting course for the next target. As the human fleet set its course, Captain Hale couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. Humanity had proven its strength and resilience. They had faced a formidable enemy and emerged victorious. But he knew that this was just the beginning. The galaxy was vast, and many challenges lay ahead. Yet, with the human spirit and determination, he was confident they would overcome whatever came their way.